Stephen Silvagni obviously relishes a challenge. He made his AFL debut for Carlton at age 17. He spent the bulk of his 17-year career with the Blues, marking players of the quality of Lockett, Dunstall, Ablett, Carey and Modra. And now he is responsible for the task of building Greater Western Sydney into a competitive unit. Welcome to Open Mic, Steve.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
Let's start in the present. Your reflections on the GWS first year.
Yeah, look, it's obviously been a year where I think the team's got off to a really good start. There's probably signs that they're starting to tire a bit with such a young list, but I think the one thing that I think the club's really happy with, it's a really competitive group, and and there are a lot of good signs, particularly for the future. Phil
Davis interests me. Really promising kid from Adelaide that you secured. You were involved in that. He's a key defender, as you were. He was a captain after 18 games of AFL football. In terms of morale, how's he stacked up?
Look, he's probably in a fairly difficult position playing down the back line. I think, the ball's probably going in our defensive 50 roughly about 70 times a game. So look, I've had a couple of chats with him. Really,
what's your message to him?
Well, it's never going to be as hard as this again in your AFL career.
Yeah.
That's as simple as that. It's going to get a lot easier from now on in, or once this season's over. But certainly really happy with the way he's competed. He's another player that hasn't played a lot of football from coming into this season, and he's been able to stand up and he's done some really good roles.
We're all expecting you to go and secure a big name between seasons. Probably the name that comes up most frequently when we're talking about GWS and players who will be available is Brendan Goddard. Now, you've been asked this before, and I'm going to ask you again. Is he on your target list?
Well, I think I've been on the record to say, certainly, I don't think Brendan will leave St Kilda. He's certainly a St Kilda person. I've spoken to his management that if he decided that he couldn't get a deal done there, we'd certainly be interested in speaking to him.
Have you put an offer to the Goddard management?
No, there's no offer on the table.
Have you got offers in front of the managements of any of the big name players that are coming out of contract?
What are the big name players, mate?
There's lots of them, Stephen. You know them better than I do. That's your job.
We speak to management groups, basically on a weekly basis. So, it's basically knowing... And generally the players want to deal with the clubs that they're at, and that's a great thing. It's very difficult to actually shift players from their clubs. It's not an easy thing to do, and generally players and clubs are loyal to each other.
So let's go back to your playing career. It was a stellar career, no doubt about that. 17 seasons, 312 games, 2 premierships, 2 best and fairest.
It was obviously a dream come true to play AFL footy, and particularly for Carlton, being a Carlton supporter as a kid.
Yeah, now that's because of your father, Serge, who was a distinguished old Carltonian. He was on the match committee at the time, and my memory was he was extremely reluctant for you to play AFL at your age. Is that true?
Yeah, that's true. Look, he obviously, wanted to protect my interests, and really, it sort of came to a bit of a shock. My father and David Parkin were very good friends. We used to, basically go on holidays together up at the Gold Coast, and Dad had taken me to training and pre-season training, and really leaving it. Probably looking into that first season of mine, I didn't really expect to be playing senior footy at all. I really didn't even know whether I was going to play under 19s. And I remember, I was doing some pre-season training. It was one Saturday morning where it was out at Burwood State College. All the running was happening. We did some skills, and then they were doing some running at the end of the skills session again. And I just walked off the track and jumped in the car, started reading the paper, and on the Monday I went back down to the club and Parko pulled me aside and said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I was tired." Because I had no concept or idea that I was actually trying to be on this senior list. I just thought I was doing the under-19s, and at the time the under-19s weren't even training anyway. So I was just doing this training for the sake of training, and he said, "Oh, we're trying to get you to play." And that's when the penny dropped. Just
after the midway point of your career, you're named in the AFL's team of the 20th century. Now, there was a bit of negative fallout about that. I remember this. I remember sort of being involved in the media discussion about it. It unsettled you a bit, didn't it?
I wouldn't say it unsettled me. I just felt that it basically came at a time where I probably sort of, not the crossroad of my careers, but still trying to, I guess, at the peak in terms, I think I was about 27, 28 years of age. So, I still had a fair bit of footy to play at the time, so it just probably came at the wrong time. It would have been nicer had it been at the end of the career, because I sort of had another 4 or 5 years. So I think at the time I might have been the only one still playing. It's an opinion, really, isn't it? So that's what it is.
You regularly played on... It was a great era for full forwards, wasn't it? Well, we mentioned the names before. You've got Lockett, Dunstall, Carey, Ablett, Modra. They're all champions of the game, every one of them. Did you find one more difficult than any of the others?
Well, I think they were all great players.
They were, that's a given, yeah.
And look, initially, I think it was... Look, Tony Lockett was just so big, powerful and strong, and particularly in the early days, I just couldn't match it with him. So, but... Look, Dunstall and Ablett and Lockett, Carey, Hurd, I could keep going on. Sumich and Modra was a freak himself. Like, they were, and you play on guys like Brian Taylor and, Gary Lyon and these types, Stewie Lowe and Richo. But a lot really got back to how your team was playing. If you wanted to be able to defend them, if you wanted to have a good day, it really got down to how your team was playing and the support you had around you. And that I think you speak to any fullback, if the ball's coming in easily, good luck. When you're playing on against a gun, good luck. But if there's a bit of pressure, you got half a chance.
The day down at Moorabbin, Carlton and St Kilda, Plugger in full flight, he kicked 10 or 11?
10.
10.
Might have been 10-7.
10-7, yeah.
10-7.
Yeah. And Robert Walls refused to move you for the day and in fact said later that you were Carlton's best player. What are your memories of that duel?
He was just unstoppable, really. It was, look, I know I got a lot of the ball, but I couldn't defend. So
was he a fearsome prospect?
He's one of the all-time greats, Mike. And certainly people don't realise how quick he was and in terms of ground level and and his speed, he was super, and he was just a magnificent kick as well. And once he got in front of you, he was almost impossible to move.
I've heard Carey and Dunstall talk at sportsmen's nights and in bars and having a drink. I've always had the impression that they thought that you broke the rules, that you probably got away with more than you should have in terms of the contact, in terms of wrapping them up.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Well, sorry for competing.
Well, and probably they would say the same. But I just didn't feel that...
The way I looked at it is certainly... And look, I remember going down to Collingwood at times, and Mick Moldhouse used to talk about, you talk about 50 contests. You're trying to get 60-40. And that's what it basically goes down to. You can't let your player own your space. You give up your space and it's all over. So I refuse to give up my space. And it's as simple as that, Mike. At the end of the day, there's one ball and 2 players going for it. You're not getting my space.
Okay,
it's
good.
As simple as that.
Yeah, pretty clear. One of the amazing stats about your career, to me, is the fact that you kicked over 200 goals. Now, would you have preferred to play more forward, or were you a backman who occasionally went forward when the occasion demanded?
Oh, look, as a youngster, I would have loved to have played forward, and I love kicking goals. I love having the freedom to be able to go play up forward, but certainly, to be able to play so many games and, down in the back line, it was probably the right call, to play down back. But when I did go up forward, I certainly did enjoy it. Let
me take you back to when you were 19 years of age. The year's 1986, you've played about a dozen games in the firsts. A strong family friend and a great mate of your father's, Robert Walls, is the coach. He leaves you out of the grand final team and makes you do the grand final parade. How did you cope with all that?
Yeah, I was shattered. Because purely, 18, 19, footy was basically my life. That's all I wanted to do. So, and it was a difficult year because I'd sort of suffered glandular fever and, I guess I wasn't in great form, but certainly I thought my form at the time warranted selection. But that's what happened. But it certainly made me a stronger person as the years went on, and understood that there's no guarantees. So you have to work your butt off to make sure you're right when it counts.
So when you got the news, your close buddy Mark Kleiman, I think he was your first port of call. Yeah. What did you do, you two?
Well, look, Thursday nights was generally a fairly big uni night at the Skinny Dog in Kew. So, and look, I had a game to play on the because
you played in the reserves grand final, didn't you?
That's right. Yep. So wasn't an ideal situation. I did go for a couple of drinks, and there were a few phone calls going to the pub to get me home.
Yeah.
But at the time, I wasn't going anywhere. You move
Tears?
on. Yeah. There were certainly. I jumped in the car and drove around for a while. Went home, and basically, I think I got changed and went straight out, and that's what happened.
Was there any damage done to the Silvagni-Walls relationship over that?
Oh, look, I don't think. No, not between my parents and.
What about you?
Look, Wallsy was a hard taskmaster, and I always looked at as if you were giving effort, that's all you can give, and then it got to coaching. I felt as though I was given I felt as though I was given 100%, but at the time, he felt that my form wasn't good enough, and that's not just the coach. I mean, it's a whole match committee.
The year 2000, you rip your hamstring off the bone late in the season. What happened between you and Carlton from there? I mean, folklore says that the Blues didn't want to extend your career and you wanted to play on, and even to the point that you were prepared to contemplate going into the draft. Is that true?
Yeah, I did rip my hamstring off the bone. I think it was the last final against Brisbane.
Yep.
Yeah, so I needed surgery and whatever. And at the time, I think Carlton had a soccer team where one of the players in the soccer team actually did the same thing, and he'd had the operation and it didn't work. So they felt that that my career was sort of over at the time. So
you were 33.
Was I 33? I think I might have been 31 or 2 at the time. But look, I was sat in John Elliott's office, and there was Colkinir there, and they told me that they wanted me to retire, and which was fine, Mike. Clubs have got to make tough decisions, along the way, and I felt that my form had been really good to that point, and I still wanted to play. So, it's a long story, but certainly I wanted to play, and I said, well, that's fine. I'll put myself in the draft.
And you meant it?
Yeah, I wanted to play.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to finish off, where, I felt I still had a fair bit of football in me.
You were 33.
Was I 35?
Well, you were born in May 67, and we're talking about the year...
End of 2000.
Which makes you 33.
Yeah. Maybe I should have. Maybe I was right.
No, your form was good, though. But I'm not sure that if we can hark back to that time, I think you were more angry than you're letting on now. Did you feel that they'd sort of abandoned you?
I don't know. I mean, look, I felt as though I was playing good football, Mike, and look, and I think I proved it the next year as well. So
you did.
I came back and I started playing, and I played good footy. So that's what it was. So, at times you back yourself in, and I was happy to back myself in.
So they came back and gave you a 1-year contract?
Actually, they gave me a 2-year contract, Mike.
Did they?
Yeah.
Okay. But at the end, you pulled the pin after 1 more year, correct?
That's right.
After the break, Stephen, let's talk about your flirtation with coaching and your relations with people at Carlton. Did you retire via a fax message from Noosa?
Yeah, I did. Who told you that?
I don't know, a bloke on a tram somewhere. Is it because you didn't want any fanfare, or was this almost a subtle message to Carlton?
No, I was up at Noosa at the time, and that's when I made my decision up there. So, look, at the end of the day, I don't overly enjoy the media side of things, so, that's what it was. It was a fax.
But it does point to a popular theory that it didn't end well for you.
No, it had nothing to do with any. It was just
nothing nasty, nothing sinister about that.
No. I'd much prefer to be in Noosa than do a press conference in Melbourne, Mike.
Yeah, and that was genuine. You were happy to just fade away, as it were. Yeah. Okay.
When your time's up, Mike, it's up.
Yeah. Is there a message there for me?
No, I'm just saying.
You did fall out with long-time friends over the salary cap rorting at Carlton, didn't you?
I wouldn't say I fell out with long-time friends.
Really?
No. Like who?
Are you as tight with Bradley Kernahan and those blokes as you were?
I speak to Braddles every week.
Do you?
Yeah.
Stephen Kernahan?
Well, I was never really tight with Steve. I mean, certainly we're teammates, but I can tell you right through my career, my best mates were my schoolmates, and they still are. and I got on really well with Braddles, and he's still one of my best mates. So in terms of sticks, yeah, like in terms of playing footy with him, well, mates, as you are at football clubs, was he ever a close mate? I wouldn't say he was a close mate, but certainly we've never had any issues. I can't remember having an argument with Sticks, so I don't know where all
He's
that
hard
comes
to
from.
argue with, though, isn't he?
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, we've never had an argument.
The salary cap scandal. This is my understanding of it. Stephen Riley, the former Geelong player who went to Carlton, blows the whistle to the AFL. Stephen Silvagni and Craig Bradley come forward and provide their version of events, and Fraser Brown stands firm and refuses to cooperate. Am I getting it right?
Well, yeah, I think, Mike, really on all this, a lot's been said in terms of, a lot was written in the media. It was basically in the media every day for about 3 or 4 weeks, and a lot that was sort of said in the media was incorrect in terms of how things happen.
But fundamentally, was it not under the table payments to you 4 players?
I'm not too sure that's right, Mike.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, tell us what is right.
Well, all I can say is this, Mike, is that, a lot of water's gone underneath the bridge since then. It was a difficult time for not only the club but the players themselves, and certainly we cooperated with what the club wanted us to do.
With what the club wanted you to do or what the AFL wanted you to do?
Well, both, really.
So you're saying that there weren't under the table payments?
Well, mate, and that's where it all... Look, I'm not prepared to go into it because at the end of the day, it could be another 2 shows in terms of what happened. But certainly all I can say is that, we cooperated with what the Carlton Football Club wanted us to do and what the AFL wanted us to do.
Was there any implication from the AFL that if you wanted an ongoing life in football that you needed to cooperate?
Not really, Mike. I mean, at the end of the day, we did what the club wanted us to do and what the AFL wanted us to do.
So, Stephen, what we're saying here is we're talking about something that caused the AFL to fine the Carlton Football Club almost $1 million and to neuter them in the draft for 2 years running. And you're saying it wasn't to do with under the table payments?
Well, I think it was to do with certain things that went on. But at the end of the day, Mike, I mean, I could come out, and it's not about me. And it's not about...
No, but you're a participant in this.
Yeah, I know, but it's not about... I can come out and tell you what exactly went on, But you know what? I think we've all moved on. It's been 10, 12 years. The club's taken a long time to get back to where it's at.
Which is precisely the point. I mean, this smashed the footy club, didn't it, at the time?
It did.
So it is significant in the modern history of the Carlton Footy Club.
It is.
Was there a moral issue with you when you spoke to the AFL? Did you feel that you needed to sort of almost, not purge yourself, but come clean?
Mike, I can tell you what has been said in the paper isn't accurate in terms of what went on.
Well, I mean, this is a trite thing, and you'd expect a journo to say this, but we've got time, mate. If you want to tell us exactly what happened.
Well, and I've said to you that a lot of water's gone underneath the bridge. The club's come a long way to get itself to where it is. And as much as I'd like to say certain things, it's not about me. I've remained silent through the whole thing, and certain people have had their say, which I can tell you is incorrect.
How are your relations with John Elliott?
Let me put it this way, Mike. If you've got nothing nice to say about someone, say nothing.
Okay. Now, I am going back over a little bit of old ground. So you lost no friendships. No friendships were ruined over the salary cap scandal.
Well, I can tell you I haven't had one argument with one player there, Mike.
That doesn't actually necessarily mean that friendships aren't affected, though. You can just choose to stay away from them and not get involved with them.
Yeah, but what type of friend? If you're a friend, you actually discuss something, don't you, Mike? Like if we're friends, you'd actually approach me and say, "Well, listen, what went on?" Would you do that as a friend?
Yeah, I think we should do that. Yeah.
So, if they haven't done that, they're not necessarily friends, are they?
Okay. Do you hold grudges, Stephen?
Oh, look, I can be stubborn.
Yeah, I think most people would say that you can be stubborn. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're getting better at that?
I could probably improve.
I think you're more open now. I think I've found you. But we've probably got a mutual friend that might have increased your trust in me. Yeah. So it's a slow process, isn't it? Okay. Now, the other one I wanted to ask you about... What's that smile mean?
Oh, you make me laugh.
The other one I want to ask you about, the perception that Stephen Silvagni felt he was harshly treated by Carlton because he was a local boy and the money went to the interstate blokes and finally to Cooter?
No, that's not right. Mike, at the end of the day, I was more than happy with what I received. More than happy. And look, my biggest thing is that when you put your hand out, you got to give something back for it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Is that it?
That's it.
Which means what? If you
that hopefully what I received,
yep,
I gave back.
But did you? And there's no question about it. That's not an issue.
That's all.
You always did that. Let's turn to coaching. I think most people thought that Stephen Silvagni would at some point coach his own AFL footy team. Your coaching aspirations, have they been put to one side? Have they been buried?
Look, more than likely, Mike. I mean, I certainly enjoyed the coaching, but certainly it was time-consuming with a young family, and I wasn't really seeing my boys play football on a weekend, and in a lot of ways, if you're going to have kids, you really want to enjoy them. Getting back to your question, highly unlikely that I'd coach again, because I'm really enjoying the role I'm doing at the moment at GWS.
I remember seeing you at St Kilda, at Moorabbin, when you were with Ross. He's a very demanding coach, isn't he? I know he's a good mate of yours, but he's demanding, isn't he? There's a high turnover of coaches.
I think most successful coaches are demanding. Ross was demanding, and he doesn't apologise for that, because it's a brutal game. And, we were trying to get a grand final for the club, for the players, as much as anyone, so that's what it was.
Were you surprised to learn that he was leaving St Kilda and going to Freo?
Yeah, I was actually. I was. I had no idea it was happening. I almost stumbled across it because I was going to go over to his house when I think Fremantle might have been over there, but lucky I stayed away.
You've got 3 boys. I hear that they're all talented kids, as you would expect, of the progeny of Stephen and Joe. You're happy that they'll be father and son at Carlton, if they're good enough?
Look, I mean, the big thing is, Mike, they're kids. At the end of the day, you try and hold them back, and they develop, at different rates. And at this stage, look, preferably I'd love them to do something else, to be honest.
Other than footy?
Yeah.
Would you?
Yeah.
Why?
Well,
I think footy was good to you, wasn't it?
No, it was good for you, but, I was sort of lucky that I was able to, probably start or play senior football quite quickly. And I've spoken to other fathers whose father-son situations where their boys have gone father-son, and those kids have found it difficult to get games, and the expectation on those kids. Do
you want them to go in another particular area, or not?
I'd much rather them be doing something else,
like
other outside football, if that was the case. Anything.
Like golfers, anything. Or
But I can't stop them. What they want to do is what they want to do, and if they're happy with what they're doing, I'm happy for them.
And what about Jo? What's her contribution to this debate?
Jo's just a good mum.
But she would have a view.
We really just want the kids to be happy in what they're doing. That's all you can do as a parents. That's all you want.
And are you suggesting that it'll be more difficult for them to find happiness in football because they're Silvagnis?
Well, no, I'm just saying that it's probably difficult because the expectations are, you're going to be like your grandfather or your father.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got a son, Mike, in terms of journalism.
It is difficult.
It's difficult.
Yeah.
So you just want them to be successful in what they do, but more so enjoy what they're doing.
You think it may be easier if they didn't wear the navy blue uniform and they're somewhere else?
Oh, no, look, I'd love
GWS.
Well, that might be the case. Look, at the end of the day, their talent will dictate what they do, Mike. I don't think there should be any right, the fact that I played there, the Carlton need to take them.
You're going to be brave enough to tell Serge that a Silvagni might be playing football other than at Carlton?
He's got to have something to whinge about.
Good point. Just a couple of things before we finish up. On-field memories. The mark over Craig Starcevich, huge, wasn't it? That was before your ankles went and you could jump.
Yeah. Oh, look, obviously, Collingwood,
yep.
I think there was 90,000 people. Yeah, it was a great moment, but I still remember the loss.
Yeah, true, yeah. No, I'm talking individually now.
Look, can I tell you, the best moments about footy is playing in, the grand finals. That's what you play for. You play for playing grand finals, and that's every club, every player out there will tell you that. If that's not the case, they're playing for the wrong reason.
Sure. The other one, the dark one, the Darren Milburn hit at Princess Park. I mean, you probably don't remember anything about it, but it was nasty. I mean, it was pretty close to the threat of people going over the fence because you're a favoured player and all that. Did you ever talk to Darren Milburn about that incident?
I never spoke to him about the incident, but I did spoke to him. He was on one of the international rules tours. So, look, I've got no issue. At the end of the day, what happens on the ground stays on the ground.
Across the board. There's no restrictions on that to you?
No, I think, and you know what, time heals in a lot of ways, Mike. But what he did, in terms of the split second and what he did, it happened, you know. I mean, if you to say what happened after that, in terms of, him clapping, if he had his time out again, he probably wouldn't do it. We all make blues. We all make blues, I'd like to take a couple of things back that I did along the way. You know? I don't know. When you get old, you get grumpy, Mike.
Still going. 30 metres out. Oh, what play! It may have been touched on the line. No!
Did you touch Michael Long's goal in '93?
Look, I've been asked that question a million times.
What's the honest answer, Stephen?
I'm sure you know what? It wouldn't have been the first one I touched that was given a goal. It happens, and it happens,
Can we be specific? Did you touch Long's
Look, I touched it, but at the end of the day, it was a sensational goal. Look, it happens.
She's magnanimous of you.
Yeah, it was.
You weren't on the ground at that time. You were a bit agitated.
It's a grand final, Mike.
Yeah. So you did touch it.
You touch it. It happens, but it's not the first one I did. I mean, I would have done at least probably half a dozen of those through my career. That just happens to be grand final day, and everyone remembers.
Stephen, it's been a fantastic career. You deservedly in the team of the century. Massive contribution to Carlton and football generally, and may it long continue. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Mike.